La orden para hacer eso. La orden aquí no se la podemos mostrar.
The Supreme Court just made a historic move, a 2025 immigration ruling that could change USCIS power forever. What does this mean for millions of immigrants, green card holders, and future visa applicants? Today, I'm breaking down what the court decided, how it impacts you, and why experts are calling this a game changer for U.S. immigration policy. Stay with me till the end because I'll reveal the hidden detail in the ruling that could shift the balance of power between the Supreme Court and USCIS forever. Drop your opinion in the comments. Do you think this ruling is fair or dangerous? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next major update in immigration law. You might not realize it yet, but what happened inside the Supreme Court this week could ripple across every corner of the immigration system, from the smallest visa application to the biggest policy decision. This isn't just another legal headline. This is a moment that could redefine how immigration power is distributed in the United States and how much control the USCIS really has over millions of lives. For decades, USCIS, the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, has been the main authority managing who gets to stay, who gets approved, and who gets denied. They process the paperwork, interpret the rules, and make life-changing decisions every single day. But the Supreme Court's new ruling in 2025? It's shaking that very foundation. So what exactly happened? In simple terms, the Supreme Court decided that the USCIS may have been exercising powers never explicitly given to it by Congress. This case started small, involving a legal challenge from a group of immigrants who claimed the agency had overstepped its authority by denying applications based on interpretations of law rather than the actual written law itself. But when the case reached the Supreme Court, it exploded into something much bigger. The justices were split, but the majority opinion was clear: agencies like USCIS cannot create or expand powers that Congress didn't clearly define. That might sound like a simple legal principle, but in the world of immigration, it's a thunderclap. Why? Because almost every major policy decision USCIS makes, from processing backlogs to humanitarian parole, to how it interprets public charge or good moral character, involves interpretation. And interpretation means discretion. This ruling could pull that discretion right out from under them. Now, let's pause here. Because if you're watching this, chances are you either know someone navigating the immigration system, or you've gone through it yourself. You know how much power an immigration officer's decision can have. One signature, one interpretation, can decide your entire future. And now the Supreme Court is saying that power might have been stretched too far. This ruling could trigger a domino effect. Experts are already warning that hundreds of past USCIS decisions could face new legal challenges. Immigration lawyers are gearing up for what some are calling a judicial storm. If courts begin striking down decisions made under these broad interpretations, the entire structure of USCIS authority might need to be rewritten piece by piece. And here's where it gets even more interesting. The ruling doesn't just target USCIS. It's part of a broader judicial trend, what some call the rollback of the administrative state. Over the past few years, the Supreme Court has been quietly, systematically limiting federal agencies' power, saying that too much rulemaking is happening outside Congress. It started with the EPA, then the CDC, and now immigration. The same legal logic applies. If an unelected agency is effectively writing its own laws, the court says that's unconstitutional. Now think about what that means for immigrants waiting on decisions. If USCIS loses some of that power, the process could slow down way down. Every unclear rule would have to go back to Congress for clarification. Every new policy could face a lawsuit. And yet, some advocates say that's exactly the accountability the system has needed for years. On one hand, immigration lawyers are celebrating. They say the ruling restores fairness, that agencies can't just change the rules overnight. On the other hand, policy experts are worried. Without USCIS's flexibility, the system could freeze. Tens of thousands of pending cases could be delayed, maybe even invalidated. And while politicians argue about what the court meant, real people, families, students, workers could be left in limbo. You can feel the tension rising. Already, statements from the Department of Homeland Security suggest they're reviewing the decision closely. Lawmakers in both parties are reacting sharply, some calling it a victory for constitutional limits, others warning it's an attack on administrative efficiency. But beyond the politics, the real story is this: power is shifting. For the first time in a generation, the Supreme Court just told a massive federal agency, "You've gone too far." Let's dig deeper into the backstory for a second. The case that sparked all this involved a man who had applied for an adjustment of status, a pathway to permanent residency. His application was denied because USCIS used an internal policy memo to interpret a vague section of immigration law. He sued, arguing that the agency had no legal basis to make up its own definition. The lower courts sided with USCIS, but the Supreme Court didn't. In a 5-4 decision, the majority ruled that agencies can't invent legal definitions when Congress's wording is unclear. They must follow the letter of the law or wait for Congress to fix it. Sounds technical, right? But it's not, because now, everything from asylum to work permits could be affected. Every time the USCIS makes a call based on interpretation rather than explicit law, it opens itself to challenge. It's like pulling a loose thread from a sweater; the whole thing could unravel. And that's where the human side of this story comes in. People are scared. Immigrants who were already living in uncertainty are now wondering if their approved cases could be reopened. Employers sponsoring workers are asking if their petitions might be reconsidered. Families separated for years are desperate for clarity, but right now, no one has it. Meanwhile, politicians are spinning it fast. Some are saying this decision puts power back where it belongs, with elected lawmakers. Others warn it could paralyze immigration altogether. But make no mistake, both sides know this is historic. This isn't just about USCIS, it's about how much power any federal agency should have in a democracy. And the Supreme Court just drew a line in the sand. Let's not forget what's at stake. Immigration isn't an abstract idea, it's millions of stories, hopes, and sacrifices. Every form filled out, every interview attended, every delayed response, it all adds up to real lives waiting for answers. And now, the rules of the game may have just changed. If Congress steps in quickly, they could clarify the laws, restore some balance, and keep USCIS functioning smoothly. But if they don't, expect chaos, expect lawsuits, expect headlines, because once this ruling starts taking effect, every immigration attorney, every advocacy group, and every policymaker will be watching what happens next. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the court wanted to send a message not just to USCIS, but to every agency that's blurred the line between lawmaking and law enforcement. Follow the Constitution, they're saying. Stay in your lane. It's a bold statement, and whether you agree with it or not, it's reshaping the future of immigration policy in America. Now, before you go, here's what you need to know. If you or someone you know is in the immigration process right now, stay alert. Watch for official updates from USCIS and the Department of Homeland Security. And most importantly, understand your rights. Because as this ruling ripples through the system, knowledge is power, and in a world where the rules are shifting, the informed will always have the upper hand. This story is far from over. The legal teams are preparing appeals. Lawmakers are drafting new bills. And the conversation about agency power versus constitutional authority? That's only getting louder. What the Supreme Court decided today could be remembered as the turning point, the moment when immigration power was pulled back from bureaucracy and handed closer to the people's representatives. So what do you think? Is this ruling a victory for fairness and democracy, or a step backward that could slow progress and harm real families? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I want to hear from you. And if you want to stay ahead of what happens next, the reactions, the political fallout, and the real stories behind these legal shifts, make sure you're subscribed. Because this is just the beginning of a new chapter in US immigration, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Until then, stay informed, stay empowered, and I'll see you in the next update.